Lesson 7.5, Factoring Polynomials. Just as a reminder, yesterday we looked at lesson 7.4, which was solving polynomials in factored form. So today we're going to explore how to factor polynomials. So in this example, I have a polynomial, and I'm trying to figure out two factors, two things that can be multiplied together to create this polynomial. Now, to solve this, I'm going to use the box method. So I put my first term and my last term in these boxes. This will help us sort itself out. Now, my middle term, I'm going to leave off to the side over here. So let's play this game. We are looking for factors of 45x squared that add together to create negative 14x. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, factors of 45x squared. I know that 1 times 45, that's not the most helpful. Now, because my middle term is negative, I know these values must be negative. I know that 3x times 15x gives me positive 45x squared. However, the sum is not negative 14x. Okay, now I know that negative 5 times negative 9 would give me positive 45x squared. Oh, and would you look at that? Their sum is negative 14x. So the box is just a way for us to organize these two terms. Now, when I look, I have to be specific here. So I want to identify the greatest common factor. So looking at my vertical pattern, okay, so thinking the greatest common factor between x squared and negative 5x is just an x. Okay, and so then x squared and negative 9 share a factor of x. Now here's where it gets tricky. We're looking for a factor, so think x times what number will give me negative 9. So I want you to think x times what number. I'm going to do this arrow in a different color. X times a negative 9 would give us negative 9x. So we're reverse multiplying here. Now let's look at x times what number? Okay, this would give us negative 5x, and that's negative 5. Now this is a complicated way of analyzing factoring, but I think you'll start to pick up the pattern. So my answer, my two factors, are x minus 9 and x minus 5. Now I want you to pause the video and see if you can do this one on your own. Okay, now I'm going to erase and we're going to check it out. Okay, so this one wasn't too bad. When we factor x squared plus 5x plus 4, we get the factors of being x plus 4 times x plus 1. And this is how we write our factored form. Okay, let's look at some other values. So we have a polynomial here. Let's factor this. J squared minus 16j plus 39. So I'm going to put my j squared in this top box, 39 in the bottom, and then negative 16j over here. So I'm going to multiply across, and I get 39j. Sorry, that doesn't look like a 9. 39j squared. Okay, now this negative 16 tells me that both of these values must be negative because my last value is positive. We have to play a little puzzle game here. Now I know that factors of 39 doesn't have too many factors. 39 is divisible by both 3 and 13. So in these boxes, I would put negative 13j and negative 3j. Now I have to identify my greatest common factor. And then think, okay, j times what number is negative 13? J, and so that would be negative 13, and this is negative 3. So this method, the box method, just helps me identify where my factors fall. And now I must write this in factored form. So I'd write this as j minus 13 times j minus 3. And this is our answer. Okay, please pause the video and work on this next example. We have y squared plus 15y plus 36. And now if I erase this good work, whoops, didn't erase enough. Okay, oh, whoops, uh-oh. It looks like I copied it on top. Okay, sorry. I'll just solve this one with you. It's not too bad. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to create 36 that add to create 15. And I know that this will be 3 and 12. 36 has multiple factors, so you might have to play around with the numbers. And that means I get the value. Yes. Okay. So my two factors are y plus 12 and y plus 3. Notice I'm not just saying that 12 and 3 are my factors. We can't forget about the y plus 12 and the y plus 3. Now, it's always important to check your work. So I want you to pause and think for a minute. How can you check your work? I'm even fine if you turn and talk and share with your neighbor. I want to know how you think the best way to check your work would be. Okay. I hope you guys had some good conversation. The best way to check your work is you can multiply. So to check your work, multiply the factors. Now you guys, I'm not perfect, and I love it when you guys get to catch my mistakes. So I want you to go back and multiply these factors together. Make sure that they equal what we originally set out for. They equal the polynomials provided. And that's a great way to check your work. You can multiply them by either using the FOIL method or the box method. Okay. Now we have some more examples. We're just going to keep on factoring. And I'd like to remind students that it's okay if you don't get the first example. It's okay if you don't get the second. Sometimes it's going to take a couple examples in order for it to stick. And that's okay. So if I have the situation that says x squared minus 3x minus 54, this follows a bit of a different pattern. Now notice my last value, my c term in this polynomial is negative. Because this is negative, now I start to notice, okay, I have to be careful. So I'm looking for a factor of now negative 54x. So because my value is negative, the two numbers, the two factors, one must be negative and one must be positive. Now I know that the factors 6 and 9, negative 6 plus 9, would multiply together to create negative 54. But we have to pay attention. Does negative 6 and and positive 9 add together to create negative 3? No. We have to be careful here. So when looking at this, because my middle term is negative, that means the bigger of the two numbers must be negative. I know that was a mouthful. There's a lot of words that I just said. But I want you to think of what we're going after. If I were to take 6x and add it to negative 9x, that sum would be negative 3x. Okay, we have to be very, very careful here. So again, now that I solve this, I'm going to write my two factors together and make sure that I put a box around them or highlight them. A few of my students like to highlight their answers, and I think that's a great strategy. just to recognize that this is my final answer. Okay, I want you to try this one on your own. Please pause the video. I'll erase shortly. Oh no, this one did it again. It copied everything. Okay. Well, I know I said solve it on your own, but I'm going to have to go back and solve it as well. That's okay. We got it. Thank y'all for being so patient. All right. You know what? Let me rewrite this x squared. So factors of negative 30x squared that add together to create positive 7x. Because it's positive, I know this time the factor that's going to be negative will be the smaller of the two. Now think, okay, 10x minus 3x is positive 7x. So we're good. That means my factors are x plus 10 and x minus 3. And again, we have to box our answer. Okay, 2 more. We got this. So I want you to just take a look at the work that I did over here. Notice I found my 2 factors. And now that they're written in factored form, think back to what we did in lesson 7.4. Notice that these factors are set equal to 0. Okay, so because my polynomial is set equal to 0, I set both factors equal to 0. And so rather than leaving it in factored form, I have my final answer is x equals 7 and x equals 6. So let's go back and factor this one together. I just wanted to show you the work and explain what we did before we actually did a practice. Okay. Maybe for fun, you guys could count how many times I say okay. I say it too many times. So I'm going to multiply together and I get negative 55x squared. That means one of my values is going to be negative and one of my values will be positive. Now, because my middle term is negative 6, I know that of the 2, so let's say if I know 11 times 5 gives me negative 55, the 11 has to be negative. So my factors are x plus 5 and x minus 11. Okay, now I'm not done yet. I found my factors. I'm going to erase this just so I have a little bit more room. I found my factors, but notice I have this 0 over here. So if you have something that says solve, or if you see something that says equals 0, we have to take this a step further. And I must set both factors equal to 0. Now, am I done? Nope. We have to keep on solving. So I get that x is equal to positive 11. Notice this is my final answer. It's not necessarily my factor, but it's my final answer. And x equals negative 5. Now I want to leave you with this last question. How does the factored form, okay, so think about factored form. Basically everything we did but the last 2 problems represents the factored form compared to the solution. So just as a reminder, I'm going to use this last one. So factored form is when we had it as x minus 11 times x plus 5. This is factored form. Now the solution is different. This is when we said x equals 11 and x equals negative 5. So looking at these 2 examples, how do they compare? Please fill out your answer and discuss this with your shoulder partner, the person sitting next to you. Thank you so much, friends. I hope you have a great rest of your day.